And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so I'm basically a couple days late, but better late than never. Welcome to Grade A Fantasy tight end and defensive preview. Also, updating on, other things that I like about week 11. I'm definitely, a lot of people are really up on this slate. I'm definitely excited, so I'm here to give you my top plays at tight end, defense, and, just other options that I have grown to like as the week has gone on. But let's get right into it. Trey McBride, George Kittle, 6,500 Arande Gatson. You're either paying up for the supreme volume. Nobody's scared of the San Francisco defense. Once it started with Fred Warner, all the injuries just started snowballing, and it's a defense that nobody should fear, especially as well as Jacoby Brissett has been playing. With Brissett and Dortch and with McBride, Dortch as well. Even though the defense in its entirety has pretty much disintegrated, they are horrifically weak in the short range, which benefits both Dort and McBride. But McBride, as you can see, his numbers since he has, even in last week, like I said, this is fantasy. We don't care about wins. They were destroyed, Arizona as a team, but McBride still came through for you, dropping almost a 27. So basically, his in 4 weeks, his lowest output is 2xing his salary now. So Trey McBride definitely the number one pick. And on the opposite side, Arizona is nothing to fear. Plus, with Purdy back, Kittle looks a whole lot better. You save 1,100 with George Kittle. Arande Gatson against Jacksonville has an amazing matchup. 6,500 against one of the teams that's worse just in general. Like I said, very overrated front seven. They have their games where they stand up, stand tall. But I always said, and I've said it before, just watching football, I don't need metrics to garner this or to come up with this in any opinion whatsoever. Jacksonville defense can be got by any team, any week. Other top plays this week with Dalton Kincaid. The most interesting value there will be a 4,700 Dawson Knox. You also have Cole Kmet against Minnesota. Not that well against, the tight end in Minnesota on the road. But like I said, with Kmet, it's all about getting those targets. When it comes to tight end, that's the lowest that I'm going to go. When it comes to my favorite plays, without a doubt, I do love the top three. But I got to slide them in between those three as a 1A or 2A or 2B. I love the combination of Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. Cincinnati, with their free safeties and their linebackers, have a horrible core of defensive players that cannot keep up with any tight end, especially two mobile tight ends that can get it going after the catch like Jonnu and Pat Freiermuth. If it's me, I pick Freiermuth, not because he's 100 cheaper, but I just think Freiermuth is the one that, lately has been the one getting the touchdown looks. Lately, 3 targets, 4, 4, and 6. As for Jonnu, 2, 5, 3, and 6, with 1 touchdown in the past 4 weeks, 2 touchdowns on the year. But both are viable. Both are viable. It is the best matchup. Tight ends eat up the Cincinnati linebacking core. So without a doubt, you'll have to like those options there. As we go lower after the Dalton Kincaid news, Travis Kelce is an option. It's not a game that I like. I think it's going to be a pretty ugly game. Pretty cold in Denver. We're getting into November, mid-November. 2 stubborn defenses. So in that case, Travis Kelce is an option because he's good against man, but it's still a rough game. Cade Otton, it's the first time that I'm going to say I don't go for Cade Otton. That is a legit opponent ranking because the Bills really don't give up anything to the tight end at all. They keep everything underneath, but they do have good linebackers that can cover while they play a shell defense. A.J. Barnes is an interesting, low-owned pick against Los Angeles. Somewhat vulnerable. It's another game that has some high-profile offensive names. JSN, Puka, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams, Stafford, Darnold. He should be definitely low owned in this scenario. It should be an ugly defensive game, but definitely a cheap option. Dalton Schultz is healthy against Tennessee. Tennessee does do pretty decent, but this is still a Tennessee defense. Davis Mills mainly targets two guys, Schultz and Nico Collins. Mills is right back in there, so we're going right back to Schultz. If you want some low ranking, low ownership upside, TJ Hawkinson against the Bears defense. And if I keep going down this way, I'm still going to always say, hey, Harold Fanning and Njoku, there's a reason why they're always together. They basically carry the same stats every week. 7 targets, 444. The week before, 8, 6, 62 and a touchdown. If you look at Njoku, 221 and a touchdown. 5, 4, 37 and a touchdown. Then has 6, 3, and 28. So when it comes to the stats, lately, you're gonna give it to Fanning. When it comes to the touchdown upside, the minute he gets the touchdown, he's pretty much, over. I mean, once you get the touchdown, you're over your salary, and then everything else is gravy. And also on the other end, if somehow Drake London is not there, I would like this play more, even though it's something worth picking because there's a lot of pay down options this week besides going in the top range. Kyle Pitts at home against Atlanta, and definitely a revenge game in one of the most, like I said, shocking results probably all year. Carolina destroying them. I think it was 30-0. And then after that, there's not really anything to look at in this range. Like I said, besides Dawson Knox at 4,700, it's a tough matchup. But 4,700 Dawson Knox, he's gonna get more. He's gonna get more targets. He's gonna get more routes to run. He's gonna get more time in the field. So the option is there. Ugly game, wind, snow. So definitely benefits the running backs and checks down to the tight ends. But other than that, these three right here just look amazing. Just amazing. I will be doing my best to get to all three. Like I said, I normally don't always say pay up for tight end, but all these guys, it's pretty much for me, even though there's so many options, if I don't get to these three, I won't be living in the middle. I'll be starting from Schultz down. And when I say Schultz down, Schultz, maybe a sprinkle of Hawkinson, bring it all the way down. I don't think I want the Cleveland guys. Cincinnati just stinks in general, especially against the tight end. Jonnu Smith, both Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth, I'm going to get to. And because he probably opens up a little more, 4,700. If you have a viable 4,700, he's going to get some ownership. And, there's a few cheap receivers. So getting Dawson Knox, who's 300 cheaper than the most expensive defense. If you go for somebody like Greg Dortch, 5,200, and then you pick a defense, depending on what defense you pick, the most you probably spent in 3 players is maybe 18.5, and then you have the rest of that to go with the rest of your team. I mean, just an interesting build if you want to go in that direction. But yeah, the top 3 options definitely I'll be getting to. Oronde Gadsden against, like I said, overrated Jacksonville defense that could be eaten up. Kittle gets Purdy back, and Trey McBride has just been on fire right into the wheels fall off. And like I said, San Francisco is just not a good defense, all because of the injuries. Now, as we get to the defense, Green Bay with that pressure, it's always worth the 5,000 whenever a defense is going against Jameis. He's pretty much quarterback definition of YOLO, but it's going to be interesting because this is probably the first time Jameis Winston is with a group of wide receivers and he doesn't really see any downfield threat, especially that Slayton got ruled out with a hamstring. So it will be interesting to see, but limited options on the Giants. The Packers just look good because of the matchup itself and how depleted. There's no Neighbors, there's no Scatterable, there's no Dart, there's no Slayton. I don't know what the Giants are really going to do. That could be a very ugly game. San Francisco, that is an overrated price. I am not touching that at 4,900. They should be on the bottom half, switching with probably Atlanta this week, even though, yes, Atlanta did get embarrassed, but I think this is a home revenge kind of thing. San Francisco's way overpriced. That is a complete fade. Houston, I will definitely get to the Houston defense. I actually like the Houston over the 49ers. Since Pittsburgh is at home, even though defense isn't that great, they still guard the run well. Can J.J. Watt get a sack and strip fumble on Flacco? That's why I would take this, even though I've said a lot of stuff about the Steelers, but I still would take the Steelers over the 49ers this week. Chargers over the 49ers at Jacksonville. The defense is getting healthier. If they hit Lawrence, they can pressure him. They can speed up his reads, make him make mistakes, which he's still viable to do. Even though they're on the road, I do like the Chargers. Baltimore, Cleveland, that's another option. Denver, like all these guys are way better. All these picks are way better. The Rams at home against Seattle, they're all better than the 49ers. So yeah, the 49ers are way overpriced. Seattle on the road, Cleveland at home, Buffalo in bad weather at 3,900. And as we get here, I don't mind Minnesota at home against Caleb Williams. You can kind of compare that to the Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback that can make mistakes, and if they can get some type of pressure, plus Caleb on the road, Minnesota. And like I said, Caleb has, besides a few outbreak games, he's been pretty decent and to mediocre. He can be made to make mistakes. If we see what they've done lately, yes, a healthy Baltimore is something different, but they did get 9-3-3-4, and they had that one burst out week, which I called right because of Browning's turnover issues, and then of course in the opening week they did have 5 for 3,600. If they could do something like what they did at least in the beginning of the week, or at Detroit, if you go to Detroit and slow down a high-powered offense like that, why not be able to slow down a above average offense like the Chicago Bears? Tampa Bay is still interesting. You never know if you get a Buffalo team that can't, get the engine started. Plus, with that bad weather game, right now that game is slated for minimum 15 to 30 mile per hour winds and snow. Earlier in the week, it was looking like rain, but I think it's now turning to snow. Just gonna have to wait, but that wind is definitely gonna be there. Just because of narrative, like I said, I proved that Carolina was just a bit overrated. I think Atlanta gets to them at home, so I will fade Carolina. I will definitely get Atlanta. Atlanta is my favorite paydown defense, and there is nothing here at the bottom. 33 and up for me on defense when it comes to that. But yeah, without a doubt, just like tight end, there are pay-up options that I love, except for San Francisco. If I would rank the pay-ups, it will, yes, be Green Bay, the 49ers, and I will have the Chargers over the Steelers if that were my pick. Now, when it comes to the injury news with Purdy coming out healthy, no injury designation, both defenses are bad. Originally, I did have a single lone game that I wanted to get to, plus the low ownership. Pittsburgh and Arizona has now the tendency. At the beginning of the week, I didn't really like the 4 o'clock slate at all. Pittsburgh, along with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, my second favorite game, or my 1A to my 1B to my 1A, is that 49ers and Arizona game. Purdy back, that offense is going to look a lot smoother. Brissett, we already know, even when they're getting killed, Brissett's the backup. Why take him out? He's going to play the whole game regardless. So he's bloated. He's even game proof. That game, any other game, the way that game was going, starters would have been taken out probably by the end of the third, at least maybe mid-third. That game was over very fast. So I really do love two very accurate quarterbacks. Yes, it's Purdy's a bit rusty, but I definitely love, like I said, I've always said, I love picking defense against the 49ers, certain ones obviously. With Purdy back there, that offense just looks way better with his accuracy and his escapability. Brissett looks great, and then he's very cheap to stack with. Yes, he has the top tight end option, but then you could go Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch as well. And like I said, with the injuries, ever since Warner got hurt, the secondary's hurt, and I think they even lost a lineman a couple weeks ago. Brissett's going to have the time. There's no Bosa there either. Brissett's going to have the time to have McBride and Dortch. Like I said, my favorite options is McBride and Dortch. Dortch is my favorite paydown wide receiver. They're going to kill over the middle in the slot range. And they like to use Greg Dortch in gadget plays, kind of like how, Kansas City, in a way, Rashee Rice. Dortch did get a handoff and got a 6-yard TD run. But now with Harrison out, Dortch is definitely gonna have a lot of more opportunities on the offensive side. And hey, I mean, if they had a better defense, I would say, hey, you have an opportunity to tag team and get both 12 points if Greg Dortch and the Arizona defense is on your roster. If they were better, Greg Dortch is also their main special teamer and kick returner. Does that go away a bit now that he's getting more offense? I don't know. But it would have been an interesting thing to try to pull off. But yeah, with that Pittsburgh and Cincinnati game, definitely now there are some great games. You know, everybody's on McCarthy this week. He's a very popular option. But the 4 o'clock, I really thought earlier in this week in one of my videos that the 1 p.m. slate is pretty much what you need, and you probably needed the right one or two players in the 4 o'clock slot. But no, this has really turned into a fun slate, especially with Brock Purdy back. That Arizona 49ers game is sneakily good because both of those defenses stink. You have good receivers. Obviously, Pearsall's back, so when you look at it as a group, the wide receiver group and tight end group as a group probably is better than the 49ers because it's a big dip down it's a huge dip way down, like off a cliff for McBride, and now you go from Marvin Harrison to Zay Jones being out to now the guy who was solely your kick. But like I said, Greg Dortch is somebody that has come through me in the past. Like I said, Greg Dortch, I've always gotten him between 45. I think the most expensive I've ever seen Greg Dortch is somewhere between, it's around 55, 57. I've never seen Greg Dortch sniff 6,059 or anything like that. So definitely a fun slate. I will start building tonight as this video starts to post. But good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Those are my last opinions about this slate. There's still some injury news to, wait for Saturday. So on and so forth. So thank you very much for checking out my channel, checking out the news. Thank you so much. Leave a like and a comment who you like this weekend. What is your favorite game this weekend? Leave a comment, like, subscribe. This is your boy Grade A Fantasy, and I am signing off. Good luck in week 11.